Hi everyone, this is Karak from ACG, and today I bring you the review for Halo 5 Guardians for Xbox One. It's been a long time since a sequel has garnered so many questions about where it's going in both story and setup across campaign and multiplayer. Does Halo 5 return us to the big band set pieces of some of the prior titles, like Halo 3's cerebral scarab battle, or Halo 1's massive multi-football field size strategic set pieces? Does the story follow various threads left over from Halo 4, or does it go back and plumb the welcome and well-oiled wellspring of the prior Halo games? And does multiplayer offer both new maps and the promise that changes to the gameplay and abilities of the characters are going to be reflected? And what will the playlists include? Always an important question, and all good questions. Let's check it out and see. So here's the review for Halo 5 Guardians: Covenant or Promethean, Master Chief or Locke, the Didact or, well, anyone else, and helmetless Spartans that look like they've suffered through African traditional neck-stretching rituals. If you like the review, please subscribe. Graphics are up first. In many ways, Halo 5 continues what Halo 4 began, with the various Promethean stylings and Tron-like facades of the past titles evoking neon sheens at such a volume it makes people wonder how anyone pays the damn power bill. However, Halo 5 stretches its wings a bit with sporadic returns to the organic nature of the first three Halo titles, and in some ways even brings back a bit of the stylings of the Gravemind in Halo 2, except you never feel like you're walking down someone's esophagus without asking their permission. Using a dynamic resolution system, Halo 5 aims for a resolution of 1080p at its max, but when enemies energize and the projectiles begin to fill the air with the thickness of a nice lead-based stew, it drops lower to keep the frame rate at a rock-solid 60 FPS. And the frame rate sticks regardless of how many sympathetic explosions you can cause by detonating things in a row, or grenading grenades, or ramming vehicles into explosive containers, because let's be honest, Master Chief and now Locke relish in making sure everyone knows that they had been there. During these moments, the resolution does drop. It's frame by frame, meaning that unless you have a keen eye, there's a really good chance you're actually just gonna miss it. Despite this drop, the game's architecture and design always looks crisp, and for those desiring of a higher frame rate, you now get it locked throughout almost all of the title. Also, there were various times where it felt that Halo 5 was absolutely trying to return to the atmosphere of the original Granddaddy title. Unfortunately, it wasn't the open, massive battlefields where this was felt so keenly, but in various traversals through tunnels that felt like fighting within the Pillar of Autumn against the Covenant for the very first time. Now, for the most part, textures are crisp and highly detailed, but if you go looking, you can find basic textures and those befitting a last-gen title spread throughout the levels, including a couple glaringly obvious main ground textures. Lastly, the anisotropic filtering does seem set either much lower than in past titles or not at all, with blurry ground textures switching over to their more detailed and eye-pleasing brethren a shockingly short distance in front of you, like a line drawn in the sand about 20 feet away, continually wiping Vaseline off the ground. A sad situation that is occurring on the new consoles from time to time and doesn't seem to have left Halo 5 unmarked. Now, right here, let's talk map makeup for the single player for just a moment. It's nowhere near as open as Halo 1, and there are no open-style combats that come close to the Scarab battle in Halo 3. They just aren't there, and for the most part, missions are spread across maps where apparently the builders decided that building at the bottom of a closed river ravine or separating everything in the world by impenetrable walls was the only way to build, like some kind of Halo version of Judge Dredd's Megatropolis cities. Now, that's not to say there aren't somewhat large-scale battles. There are, a good deal of them. However, they're still tragically contained to enclosures that at times feel far more like Unreal Tournament arenas rather than the excellence of execution that we've seen in some prior titles. Now, enemy designs are still fantastic, and I swear that the Covenant elites have been roiding out. What we call a smile to them, they'd be calling a set of hard reps, because they appear bigger, badder, more bulky than past titles, and they are danger certified and menace approved. I loved the overall look of that. In fact, all the enemies have seen little improvements here or there, and befitting the power of the Xbox One versus the 360, it's all done with an excellent eye towards making them look good from scope view or when they're standing in front of you asking to see your insides. All of this is mimicked in the multiplayer, which continues to see rock-solid frame rates despite massive battles across both cluttered and open terrain. To sum it all up, I'd say that Halo 5 does look great, but it does so with some caveats like dynamic resolution, tufts of chemotherapy grass spurting out of the ground textures, and that horrible, horrid filtering. Sound, music, and voice.
Where the hell is it going? Chief's on board that thing.
We need to get airborne.
Side. Make your way to the space elevator right now. Final shuttles are departing soon with...
Press himself like this since we were in boot camp.
He's fine, Fred.
And this many missions non-stop isn't fun.
Sierra 117 to infinity. Blue team has located Argent Moon. Signs of hostile activity.
And sound is up first. I have to say there's a crispness here to much of the sound work that I love, and the mixing was spot on, respecting the spectrum at all times and informing the gamer regardless of position about what was occurring around them. I still find the Promethean weapons have all the tonal punch of a child yelling bang into a microphone, but that's a personal preference and not actually a technical one. However, once you're the chief and you pick up the good old DMR or battle rifle, that singing sound of projectiles sent at enemies' noggins is absolutely sure to delight. All in all, excellent sound work and mixing. Music. Once again created by the talented Kazuma, the music in Halo 5 is not only better than Halo 4 by a long shot, to me at least, but actively reconnects the mystic feeling of prior titles' musical scores with Halo 5, mixing in ambient threads from time to time that have a more militant march-like sound to them, only to soar off into the orchestra love affairs that Halo games have always had with stringed instruments and woodwinds. There are also poignant moments of negative space here, not many, but some, and that sort of lets the sound effects reinitialize a bit and set a solid foothold into the game, only to then have the music sort of creep in up on you again. It's the best use of that technique in the titles that I've seen, and the transitions, which are normally the most difficult part, are transparent completely. I adore the soundtrack. I think it's easily one of the top Halo soundtracks to me of all time. Voice. We have a good number of newcomers and some returning favorites. Nathan Fillion nails it as Buck, both gung-ho and yet sparingly cautious about both plans and overall strategy, while Locke is a by-the-numbers foil, really, when you think about it, offsetting the Master Chief's continually gray area of thinking with a by-the-books but always understanding where and what he's doing mentality of a soldier that might be a bit out of his element. Of course, the Master Chief continues to delight with one-liners like elevator, panel here, and enemies. It's hilariously abrupt sentence structure and delivery like that lend a good deal of life to a character that you could easily assume was an emotionless robot under that armor. But then, when meeting old friends and comrades, he might even finish a sentence. As always, your mileage is going to vary, but I still love that character. Additionally, there were some absolute standouts in the vocal department. Since those are spoilers, though, I'm just going to have to say, overall excellent voice work. And as always, the enemies in Halo take the cake with hilarious threats, taunts, and verbal garbage spit at the demon throughout all of the gameplay. And that brings us to gameplay. For a bit of the story, Halo 5 wastes no time getting going, and the story basically involves Master Chief going off reservation in a series of missions not allowed by the commanding force, relegating him to AWOL status. Locke and Osiris squad are sent to capture the Master Chief using nothing more than an energized hockey puck. And no, that's not a joke. Get close enough, put the puck on Master Chief, and you freeze his armor. Yeah, that sounds like it's a totally doable plan. Hell, the Master Chief's done worse things during children's birthdays than this, and to get the plot moving, they slap him with the possible charge of leaving duty without authority, and that is actually a pretty heady crime, of course. Unless, of course, he's trying to stop an alien menace from destroying the retirement home memories of an entire civilization, setting off explosions in cities, destroying entire buildings, and ignoring directions all the time in every past title. Oh wait, that's exactly what's happening here as well. Sadly, from the get-go, you play almost entirely as Locke and Osiris squad. Easily 85% of the game is spent looking for the Chief and yelling at him to stop as he leaps through dimensional doorways, beats you up, and otherwise makes you look foolish. The remaining 15% of the story, you play as Blue Team and as the Master Chief as you seek out the cause for the new threat that has gripped the galaxy. I have to admit a keen, absolute disappointment in playing Locke for the massive majority of the title. This results in a very strange fiction as told through the eyes of a camera called Osiris Squad, staring at Chief's running away ass throughout the entire title. Now, that's not to say it's all bad. The story has a more connected feeling than Halo 4 throughout the middle and end, and it does end up paying off. But getting there may feel like an absolute slog to some players. Getting it where it counts, though, is what matters here, and the addition of 60 frames per second gameplay means everything works at an incredibly fast rate, and the slickness of movement, whether fighting Promethean Covenant or a mixture of it all, works really well. Additionally, you can control your Spartan comrades with a very basic but absolutely excellent integrated single waypoint system, and heal or be healed by Spartans by the laying on of hands. While the Covenant and the Prometheans themselves are enjoyable in combat combined, it's when they are totally separate that the game can sway wildly in its overall gameplay values, and for many gamers, just like in Halo 4, you may find one enemy that you enjoy encountering over the other. The Prometheans have always felt different, more mobile with their continual teleport and constant quick movements, while the Covenant feel a bit more grounded and hammer-like, and when together, it's actually incredibly enjoyable. When separate, maybe a little less so. New vehicles introduced and level setups that offer excellent fun for the moment, and whether jet setting to an alien world or returning to a human outpost, the game offers a diverse set of gameplay elements, including an odd bit where you walk around town and talk to people. Halo Master Chief Zelda Edition. Actually, all kidding aside, it only lasts for a couple minutes, but walking around a small outpost town listening into folks was not at all what I expected from a Halo game. It wasn't enough there to be distracting, but it certainly did get my notice. Now, while the main battle scenes are enjoyable and usually quick moving, Halo 5 falls flat in one very specific area: boss battles. And the fact that one in particular is repeated an extraordinary amount of times. For some people, that would be, let's say, 3 or 4 in a title. In Halo 5, 3 or 4 is small beans. Make that 5, 6, 10 or more times the same damned guy. It's a digital bully beating you up after school each evening, except replace him stealing your lunch money with him ruining your fun by refusing to leave unless you sneak up on him and punch him or shoot him in the back. Trust me, it's more fun than it sounds, but after the second or third time doing it, it really does start to feel like they're filling in moments between the actual enjoyable bits. As with all Halo games, multiplayer is a major component, and with all Halo games, good map creation and playlists, which Halo games have been sort of hit and miss with in the past, will seal the deal on its longevity. Custom matches are in, as well as the typical matches we've seen in most past titles. However, for newcomers and old fans alike, the new Warzone massive battle pieces might be the best addition. Sprawling maps larger than any campaign map, Warzone gameplay is sufficiently overpowered and chaotic enough that scoring a few hits is possible for even the most woeful of aim masters, and there's a lot of fun to be had there. As you continue to play within the map, your team gets these unlocks you can either pick up while respawning or purchase from the Deli Mart weapon ATMs spread across the levels. I'm not gonna lie, once the game really gets going and some vehicles get spawned in, the multiplayer Warzone feels far more like the campaigns of maybe 1, 2, and 3 with their large battlefields than anything within the actual campaign of Halo 5. Additionally, having random enemies from the campaign show up to wreak havoc on your well-laid multiplayer plans is actually incredibly fun, and I really enjoyed that. Halo's maps, though classic, have needed some changes as characters' abilities have adjusted since the original title, and many of them appear to have made that transition into the new title very well. It's going to take a good deal of time to really separate the good from the bad here, however, and though the matchmaking worked great, the game ran at a solid clip throughout, and the TTK, or time to kill, seemed fairly dialed in, it's just a question mark for now. Additionally, there is also some question as to map matchmaking and ping rates, and all that is still up in the air. I was never impacted by poor ping, but you know what, it's going to probably be possible. Lastly, customization continues in Halo 5 with various weapon skins, packs you get for playing the game, that have various card-like rarities, and a good deal of unlocks. Actually, it seems like a massive number of unlocks, really. For those that care, it's there. For those that don't, they probably won't see those screens much at all. In the end, though, very, very cool multiplayer, really enjoyable. And that brings us to Fun Factor Reno. I had a blast. Even if the story failed me, the gameplay didn't, and then when the two started to assist one another about halfway through the title, I began to really get my bearings and start enjoying it. The multiplayer was an absolute blast, with the Warzone being such a favorite of mine. It's going to be a long time before I ever do something different. A very long time. The real conclusion is this: if you like Halo, you'll most likely have a good time. If you don't, there isn't much here to magically change your mind. So I rate games on a buy, wait for a sale, rent, or never talk about it again rating scale. This is a buy. Listen, it ain't perfect, and it's probably not the best Halo game ever made, and that sort of sucks. But it's a good Halo game. It's got multiplayer co-op, but no couch co-op. It's got a good number of maps, plus free packs coming, and 60 frames per second gameplay that does increase the feeling of fidelity throughout the entire campaign. The plain and simple fact is, it's a good Halo game. Now, while the story may be throwaway for the first half, it also gets going in the end, and I cared about what was occurring and where it was going. Something I actually couldn't say about Halo 4 as much. So anyway, Halo 5, a good game, backed up by a ton of content. So that's it for me. I hope you liked the review. If you did, hit thumbs up. If you didn't, hit thumbs down. And as always, peace out.